Okay, exhuming your true self from under all the bullshit. We're gonna talk about motivation for a hot minute, that thing that they swear comes after you actually start working on the thing and not before. Though there are many types of motivation, psychologically speaking, we're just going to concern ourselves with two types: extrinsic and intrinsic. Extrinsic motivation comes from an external source and is usually controlled or given by others, like completing work tasks from your boss or doing homework for the students out there. Usually there is some kind of external consequence or reward for completing or not completing these things, like you may get promoted or fired, or you may get a higher or lower grade in school. Meanwhile, intrinsic motivation comes from an internal source, you, in order to fulfill your own personal needs, or just because it makes you happy or feel satisfied in some way. It's not something that you have to do necessarily or have to answer to anybody else for. It's basically like self-fulfillment. Our motivation and our beliefs come from our alignment with our identity. According to James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits, yes, another person talking about atomic habits, I know. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this, but it's another very different something to say, I'm the type of person who is this. End quote. This is me writing. So if you want to stop smoking, you don't say, I'm trying to quit smoking, because you're still identifying yourself as a smoker. Instead, you say, I'm not a smoker, as the key thing about non-smokers is that they don't smoke. He goes on to say, true behavior change is identity change. You might start a habit because of motivation, but the only reason you'll stick with one is that it becomes part of your identity. Considering that identity determines belief, if you are truly to embody your core values / your center, what beliefs about yourself, others, and the world around you do you need to embrace? Okay, so I'm gonna start by saying what identity I want to embody. So let's put square brackets. Author. So as an author, I will need to write books, write more often, draft, which was another thing that I never allowed myself to do. Make a shitty first draft, which was out of the question. Probably read more as well, just in general, whether that is fiction or craft books, because we do pick up a lot of stuff when we're reading fiction, including building empathy. If you pick up a fiction book that is especially told in the first person, and the main character is ethnic background or racial background or sexual orientation that is different from your own, that helps you to build empathy for that community. So I'm a big fan of empathy. It teaches you how other people think as well. So yeah, do that more often. So those are the things that an author would do. Obviously also publish books. That's the important thing. Publish books. And all right, so what beliefs about myself are keeping me from becoming an author? People are going to hate my books. That's what it is. So what beliefs about yourself, others, and the world do you need to embrace? So let's get some affirmations going. If we have people are going to hate my books, we're going to use one of my favorite little aspirational graphics that I put on my vision board almost every year. One day you're going to be someone's favorite author, or you're going to be someone's favorite author one day. That's what I'm going to put down here. Also, I think I'm getting a cold, so I'm sorry about the congestion. So I am not out here to write great literary works. I'm out here to entertain folks. So I think the expectation that I'm gonna have like a bestseller, because I'm a romance writer, okay? So like, I'm not saying that you can't have a best-selling romance novel, but I know how those more serious writers feel about more entertaining works. It's okay to write romance would be another thing, because that was a big blockage for me for 18 years, because I started writing a romance novel when Sunny, my eldest, was a baby, and I gave it up for many reasons, but one of them was that it's not okay for me to be writing this. And this was a big part of my trauma work from last year, working through a lot of beliefs that fed into that. What will you do and what will you not do? I will write and draw if I'm doing comics. Oh, have work hours, I think, would be another thing. Hold on. Let's scratch that out. So I will definitely write and draw, have set work hours, and rest so that I'm not perpetuating this bizarre cycle that I'm in. Definitely not do self-hatred, be self-critical, binge work, and burnout. Things that I feel I should do. What habits will you need to gain in order to support yourself as you cast off your old stories and embrace your truth? So I will definitely need to draw more because my anatomy is not great, and I mean drawing wise, like my human body is fine. But I'll need to draw more for practice. I will need to write more for practice. I will need to allow mistakes, allow the work to breathe, focus on the process and not the end result. Process, focused goals, and not the end result. Sleeping better is also important for my brain, since my brain is what is going to be writing the words and such. What skills will you need to develop or hone? Probably read more craft books, maybe? No. I'm gonna write my first book, and it's gonna be a piece of shit, and I'm gonna publish it anyway. I'm done reading all the craft books. I have read so many at this point. There is no more preparation. I don't need to have any more skills. No more skills. That's it. I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to make all the mistakes in public. I'm ready to go. I'm ready now, because skill building is my favorite way of procrastinating, just so everybody's aware. I'm ready to write my biggest piece of shit ever made, but it will at least be entertaining, and that's the point. Rewrite your story. Are you ready to rewrite your story? Because I'm ready to rewrite mine. The story that has the most hold on your life is the one that you tell yourself every day. And human beings, since the dawn of humanity, have thrived on stories and symbols in order to make sense of themselves and their world. If you want to see a version of this goal setting series that has book recommendations, I think it might have been the 2022 version, talking about humanity and symbols. I read the book Sapiens by, I don't remember his name now. It was a while ago, but it was good. Okay, getting James Clear to back me up again here. He says, when you have repeated a story to yourself for years, it is easy to slide into these mental grooves and accept them as a fact. In time, you begin to resist certain actions because that's not who I am. There is this internal pressure to maintain your self-image and behave in a way that is consistent with your beliefs. You find whatever way you can to avoid contradicting yourself. End quote. We all have those stories we tell ourselves on repeat. Can't keep your house clean? I'm so lazy. Can't find a rewarding relationship? I am unlovable. No one is buying your art? Everyone hates me and I'm the worst. You get the idea. Clear isn't wrong when he mentioned mental grooves. As it turns out, repeated actions, feelings, thoughts, and behaviors physically reinforce the neural pathways in our brains, like literal mental grooves. That results in our brain finding these things much easier to do, and therefore much easier for us to default effortlessly into. That's exactly what habits are. Our brains use about 20% of our total energy production daily, so they are constantly seeking optimization in order to conserve said energy. This can have both good and bad results. See, while our brains are remarkable, they are also the organ equivalent of the dude who figured out he could play Wii Sports tennis while still laying on the couch and merely flicking his wrist just so, instead of moving his body like he's playing real tennis, which was the original intention with Wii Sports, for those of you who remember the Wii. Sometimes those mental grooves become more like ruts we get stuck in, especially when we're talking about bad habits, negative beliefs, or negative self-talk. Since our stories are so intertwined with our identities, we resist even trying to change things because we simply don't believe it's even possible, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you decide that you're just not the kind of person who works out, your brain files that information under garbage and doesn't direct any energy into pursuing it, no matter how much you tell yourself you should work out or how unhappy you are with your health. Belief is everything. However, there is good news. We are constantly learning, adapting, and changing, physically changing our brains. This changeability is called neuroplasticity. Whenever we learn a new skill or perform a new action, new neural pathways form in our brains. Practice makes better, right? So through repetition, these neural pathways get stronger and stronger. On the flip side, when we cease repeating certain actions or beliefs, the neural pathways weaken, just like how I forgot to play the piano because I haven't practiced in about 25 years. Rewiring our brains is completely and realistically possible with dedicated attention and intention. but you need to show up and put in the work, and that's the hardest part. Because again, when you're working for something, when you're like working to change things, it depletes your resources at a faster rate, I would even say. Because like this was just talking about, when you're defaulting into something that those mental grooves are already there, it takes less energy for your brain. And I would even say for your spirit as well. But when you're trying to change, it takes so much more energy because you're literally overriding your brain. And it can feel very hard. And I understand. I'm there with you. Think back now. What can you do today that you were not capable of 10 years ago? Okay, so 10 years ago, what the heck year is it? 2024? So 2014 was 10 years ago. 5 years, I hate myself for doing this. 5 years ago was 2019, right? Because 2014 plus 5 is 2019. 3 years ago would be 2021 question mark. 1 year ago was 2023. I can do things. 6 months ago at this point would be sometime in the summer of 2023. Summer. Why am I so bad at math, you guys? Why? I need a calendar. Tell me right now. All right. We are in February. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my God. It's the 6-month anniversary of my downfall into the chatbot spiral that happened in August last year. So yes, that's fun. Think back now. In 2014, what the hell was I doing in 2014? It was a year before we got married and we were living here. So I could barely remember my life. So 2014, things I can do now that I couldn't then: write chatbots. Write chatbots because they did not exist. I have so many chatbots, y'all. I am so proud of myself. 2019. Okay, so 2019, I started journaling as a daily practice that year. So what can I do now that I could not do then? I feel like 2019 version of me was like so much better. That was like my minimalism time period. Why am I doing this to myself? But 2021, that's when I did Meeting the More again. That's when I had my big spiritual awakening. And then last year, I did so much healing that it was actually really harrowing. So yeah, I guess like I'm gonna just stop writing down the years because like all of these things, I can write chatbots now. I've healed a lot of trauma, which keeps me from doing a lot of stuff. I know, like, sorry I keep bringing up trauma on my channel, but A, it's my channel, so, you know, and B, trauma happens to lots and lots of people. Let's not stigmatize it by silencing people. So silence never helps. Never. That's just my opinion, so take it as you will. Okay, so I healed a lot of trauma and I can do things that the trauma was preventing me from doing, which I'm not getting into details about. And that's not to say that I don't still have problems in these areas. My idea of healing is that there's always going to be a scar. It's never going to be gone. It's never going to be totally magically fixed. There's going to be scar tissue, especially if it's a deep wound. But that's beside the point. Okay, so use this as evidence that you can change and eject your resistance. Like the Iron Giant, choose who you want to be. I want to be an author who makes stupid, shitty, silly ass books that people find entertaining. And I don't need to make anything super great. I just want to entertain people. I want to give them a little laugh, maybe a little cry. And I think that's okay. I don't need to move mountains or change lives because that's not even up to me. Once again, that's up to whoever reads it, if this is like a life-changing thing or whatever. I just want to amuse myself by making these silly, shitty stories and putting them out there for people to read. That's what I want to do. What identities which you currently hold are actually holding you back from creating the life that you truly desire? In what ways are they holding you back? So we're going to take my little highlighter again. Give me this. And we are going to go back to my identities here. And I'm going to highlight the identities that are possibly holding me back from putting my books out there, putting my art out there, putting my, like, doing my comic and stuff like that. Okay. First of all, hoarder is not great because as I identify as a hoarder or a slob or a messy person, a lazy person is another one. It's like, well, I guess that's just the way it is. My house will never be clean. And, you that's not true. So chatbot addict, I think I'm also going to highlight, just like I did with planner addict last year when I was going into my no-buy year, because just the term addict means that I can't stop. And I can anytime I want. No, I've overcome one thing. I can do it again. It's gonna be fine. So heretic, I'm leaving there because it just means someone who thinks differently without like all of the extra societal cultural baggage that it's gained, like a katamari over the years. That's fine. Okay, so we also have traumatized person. I'm going to highlight that. Homunculus is the term that I use for myself when I'm either having like gender issues or when I'm feeling like I'm in goblin mode and I haven't showered because I've been so depressed. So that's what that means when I'm like, I don't want to be called a woman because that carries with it certain expectations of that I'm not comfortable with. So you're learning new things about me. So depressed, messy, and slob, I'm going to highlight. All right, so here's my thoughts about using your diagnoses as parts of your identity. And this is just my personal thought. Anybody can do whatever they want. I don't really care. Do I want to identify as being depressed? I don't want to believe that I'm always depressed, but I do want to walk side by side with the depressed version of me and hold their hand and be there and be present for myself when I am experiencing low points. So while I experience these things, they do not define who I am. So I think I'm going to just highlight all of those things. The sluggish cognitive tempo thing, that's probably really hard for... Between the sluggish cognitive tempo and the trauma, those are probably the arch nemesis of my wanting to be an author, because not only do I have to like deal with all the trauma stuff, which is its own thing, but I often feel like I have to fight my own brain to get it to cogitate and like make words come out. So, when I'm writing, sometimes it can feel so taxing. I can feel it in my head. Feels like all the gears are gunked up inside my head, if we're going with some kind of gear analogy. And I don't know, like, if that's normal. Is that normal? Is that normal for people with sluggish cognitive tempo? I don't even know. Okay, here we go. What identities do you currently hold that are actually holding you back from creating the life that you truly desire? So I'm going to bucket them. Hodor. Hoarder / lazy / homunculus, which I love using because I'm also a small person, but the way I use it is perhaps not useful all the time. SCT, depressed / anxious. Oh wait, I've done too much. All right, anxious. We're just going all in now. Messy, slob. These collectively form Captain Planet if Captain Planet was a total asshole and came into my house and kept me from cleaning anything. That's right. So I'm saying they keep me stuck in clutter. Captain Clutter. I do have a lot of trouble making decisions about all of these things because I just get so overwhelmed. I think I said that last time. Did I say that last time? And then, so trauma plus the SCT will oppose my authorhood because they make everything harder, everything about writing harder. And yeah, I guess that's basically it for that. Just because our stories have previously served us in childhood does not mean that this is still the case in adulthood. What stories, beliefs, habits, people, or things no longer align with your core values and who you actually are inside? I could tell you, but I think it might be a little bit personal. I don't want to trauma dump too much on the internet. I will answer this off camera. Okay, how can you eject these from your life? Or if this is not possible in totality, at the very least, how can you set up firm boundaries between you and these things so that you are no longer wasting your precious time and energy on them? So I feel like I've alluded to this in videos in the past, and, I'm so sorry that people who don't want to hear about trauma are going to hear a little bit about it, but this is just part of my story, and yeah. When it comes to being able to write romance, there are obviously certain things that you can write about in those books. You don't necessarily have to. There are plenty of books that don't include that sort of thing, if you will. But there's also the belief that, doing that, writing that is bad and dirty and smutty. And with the amount of work that I've done this past year on my trauma issues, I feel like if I let somebody try to shame me about it at this point in my life, because I'm 42, when is it okay to talk about those things? I feel like if somebody tried to shame me at this point in my life, I would get really mad and be like, no, you don't understand what I've been through and what I've had to overcome to be able to write about this. So I think I'm starting out on a good foot for being a romance writer, finally, after God knows how long. So that's how I'm answering this question. By honoring the work, the internal work that I've done, I'm not going to let people shame me into thinking that I can't write about this stuff. Change happens when the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain and discomfort of the unknown. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your pain? Insert Baymax right here. Man, probably like a 9. I am tired of being afraid. I am tired of letting people dictate what I'm allowed to do when I'm a grown woman. This is the year, okay? This is the year. I'm telling you right now, finally. 2020 was supposed to be my year, but it did not happen, obviously. What tweaks can you start making to your own stories and beliefs in order to stop being weighed down and suppressed by them in your life? So obviously, I need to stop believing that my work has to be perfect. I have to stop believing that my work is going to change lives, that people are going to love it, it's going to be a bestseller. It's great if I want to set up a vision board and stuff like that. But I'm such a bad manifester, I swear to God. Because I'm like, no, let's set the bar super low. So that way I feel like I'm winning immediately. That's what I need. But yeah, what tweaks can you start making? I have to believe that I can write shitty books and it'll be okay. There are tons of shitty books out there, ton of them. I have to stop believing or stop holding myself back because the belief that it has to be bestseller or, life-changing. Let go, because I don't even get to decide that. Like, yeah, it would be great if, my work, my words, anything that I possibly do in my lifetime is helpful. That's basically all I want in my life. I want to feel helpful. I want to experience love. I want to love others. I want to be loved in return. That's all I want. Baseline, okay? That's it. But I don't get to determine what is helpful for somebody else. And so that is what I have to let go of. In a species as language dependent as humans are, words have power. There's a reason it's called spelling. Our stories can save us or they can destroy us. Always remember that you are the author of your own story. That's actually where the term authority comes from, the author. Transformations don't happen overnight. In fact, they can be hard and painful, but given enough time and pressure, even a lump of coal can turn into a diamond. I feel like I'm just in absolute goblin mode this year. But no, we're gonna get out of it. We're gonna stop being a disgusting mess, and it will be great. Fuck depression. The fuck it list. You've heard of the bucket list. Now make way for the fuck it list. What bullshit can you banish in order to protect your most precious resources? Time, energy, and attention. Depression! Depression-induced goblin mode. That's one. What else? Perfectionism is a big one. Hoarding or / not cleaning. I feel like I need to just hire a cleaning person to come in and do like a sweep of the house for me. Because maintaining is a lot easier than doing the initial setup. You know what I'm saying? Staying up too late, right? I'm talking about banishing things. So staying up too late. And I'm talking about, I've gone to bed. My neighbor is screaming in case anybody hears that, but that's beside the point. I mean, I'm screaming inside, but that's fine. Staying up too late. I've stayed up past 1 o'clock most nights, and that's not good for me, especially when I have to wake up at 7 on weekdays. So we're gonna do the need for good books, quote unquote good writing, or quote unquote good art. And I know this is very contrary to a lot of popular thought on, goal setting, where you have to think big, dream big. And I still am a believer in that. And so if this does not work for you, then that's fine. However, when it comes to me personally, I have to have a dose of reality because I get so stuck on these things that I can't change, and then that worsens my mental health, and then everything just collapses. So yeah, we are all about holding both the big dreams and the what is the lowest bar I could possibly set for myself in this planner. So yeah, if you have any questions about the process so far, please leave a comment down below. As always, I am so sorry for rambling on, but hopefully somebody found something interesting or useful or helpful or insightful in my word vomit, and I will see you tomorrow for the next installment, where we will lower your bar, speaking of, okay? All right, thanks, bye.
Stickers and washi tape galore, over my head.